Let's talk about love, illusions, and honeypots. It's time to talk about industry. Hi, this is your first time seeing me. My name is Brittany. I discuss all things power, influence, and conflict through the lens of entertainment. And tonight, we are talking about industry. More specifically, season 4, episode 6, Dear Henry. This episode took me through it, and the one quote that stuck with me that I want to use to really frame our discussion around power, honeypots, and everything in between is I don't know the right way to love you. I don't know if loving you properly is to make you aware of the things you cannot see, or is it more loving to perpetuate your delusions? The irony of Henry being the person to say this. We see each of our main characters chasing their delusion, chasing something that they love. For Yas, she's chasing what she believes is her hard-won security. And out of love, we see Harper coming to her and warning her against trusting Whitney. And Harper doesn't have to do this, of course. She could completely blindside her, but Yas is probably one of the more meaningful relationships she has in her life. The closest thing she has to a friend is Yas, and so she goes out of her way to warn Yas. Yas, however, has spent the past at least 2 years in a very difficult place. She's been a social pariah. Her status as a wealthy Nepo baby has really been ripped from under her, and she's had to not only wrestle with the reality of her financial situation, but she's had to wrestle with the reality of who her father was. Okay, facts. Who her father was and what he actually did to her. And so now here she is thinking that well, it's not perfect, it's certainly stable enough. And she is the self appointed carer and nurturer of Henry Muck, right? The boy who was born with everything, and yet it's still not enough. And Lord Muck is mucking his way through senior leadership, the most senior leadership at Tender, and she puts a bug in his ear. What if this is true? Because Yas knows Harper is, if nothing else, dogged in her determination, and when she's right, she's right. And Henry responds with pride. And he posits that Yas really is just jealous of him, and she can't really accept that he is now in control. He tells her that he's redefined his relationship with alcohol, and as an addict, that is a very, very dangerous place to be. But that's where he finds himself. And so he summarily pats her on her head and sends her on her way. And what do we know? Pride cometh before a fall. He's tripping and falling into the trap that Whitney set. Now, I'm not even going to try to pronounce Whitney's real name, but we do know that he is operating under an alias because he starts singing Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston, his favorite singer, and he confesses essentially to Harper. But we see that he's been able to lay these honeypot traps. So if you're unfamiliar with the phrase a honeypot, outside of the feminine hygiene products that are currently on shelves, uh, a honeypot is typically used in espionage, and that is when you take a very attractive woman and you use her to either seduce, distract, or extort a powerful asset. And we see that this has happened in a number of ways. So we see that this has happened with Lord and Lady Muck, right? Yas and Henry have been honey trapped. They've fallen for the honeypot and likely were recorded in the room where they had the threesome with the chief of staff. Remember, I said she was going to be a trouble, she was going to be part of the downfall. She was. We see that Eric Eric Tao, who is supposed to be Harper's pseudo parent, who is probably the only one who loves Harper for exactly who she is, who has difficulty connecting with his own bio daughter and can't even look her in the face when he lies to her and says that he loves her, but actually feels and expresses real shame when he has to recuse himself from Stern Tao. He believes in Harper. He knows that she has everything that she needs to succeed. And at the same time, he knows that his pride, what did he say to the young woman? To the girl, actually, make me feel big. She does that. And in return, he sees that he's risked quite literally everything for a few moments of pleasure and pretend. Whitney is, of course, a proxy for someone who is in the news every day now, whereas we see that he is acquiring wealth, access, and power by means of exploitation. Sound familiar? And Whitney feels fairly confident that this is going to secure him the power that he's looking to acquire. Remember, I talk about power. Power is always exercised, very rarely acquired. So, Eric reminds us of a very important lesson. Do not press a desperate foe too hard, right? He says, whenever you are pressing on an army, leave an outlet free, because what if the outlet is through you? Right? Eric understands that he is being blackmailed in the moment. However, he also understands that this, his weaknesses, his giving into his carnal pleasures, his carnal desires, is not going to be the thing that brings down Harper Stern. He is keeping his promise to her indirectly by recusing himself, by allowing her to realize what she needs, what he sees she needs, in order to feel valuable, which is to be fucking undeniable. Eric does the right thing. Plainly put, we're only as sick as our secrets. And while Eric does feel shame, he looks at Harper as his progeny, right? As his legacy. He doesn't want her to know that he got with an underage girl. What he does do is recuse himself, completely insulates her from any potential fallout, and he falls on his sword, right? And he, on live television, challenges Whitney. New audit. You say that you continually self audit, that's fine. Do another one. If you're going to accuse us of racism and say that, because you're dealing with, financial markets in under resourced countries within Africa, fine, do a new audit. Let somebody else look at your books. And we know what's going to happen when and if they do that. Let me know if you have any questions. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.